If you could reincarnate as a non-human, what would it be? Story 1. A house cat of a childless or empty nest woman. You want for nothing. Reply 1. Riffing on this for a potential story idea. I rescued my cat from the rain gutters of my building when he was just 10 weeks old. I'm pretty sure those first 10 weeks were scary as anything. Thunderstorms, dogs, lizards, all kinds of threats. It took a few days, but you could almost see the switch flip when he realized he was warm, fed, and above all, safe. I wonder if that would make for a good story. Someone wishes to be reincarnated as a cat, suffers for a bunch of weeks to atone for some minor sin, and then whatever deities are like, psych, and they get rescued. Reply 2. As a child-free woman with 2 cats, I can confirm. Though one of mine is pretty angry that she can't go outside and take on the birds building a nest on the front porch right now. Not that she would know what to do if she was that close to a bird. Reply 3. Same, no kids, 2 cats. We have glass doors, a giant picture window, and steps up to my office window and regularly leave the windows open. This was not enough for my indoor cats, so now they have a screened-in catio with a walking bridge out as well. These boys have indoor and outdoor privileges without the worries of a real outdoor cat. 2 sofas, 2 beds, 2 humans that work hybrid, a giant beanbag chair, floorboard heat in the kitchen, multiples perches, scratchers on each floor, automatic litter boxes, a filtered water fountain, and some of the best cat food you can buy without a prescription. Anytime they whine at us that we're late to feed, then we love to mock them for having such uncomfortable lives. Reply 4. Same, and keep me indoors. I am a childless human with 3 cats. During times of scarcity, my kitties come first. I will just eat ramen, snacks they supply at work, and whatever my roommates throw at me out of pity. My cats get their medication, their canned and dry cat food, their treats, and all the vet visits and vaccinations they need. They get to live the life of luxury I can only dream of. Story 2. A seagull, live at the beach, can fly and float, get to eat fries, pizza, seafood, etc. Not actively hunted, and you can crap on your enemies. Reply 1. Their lives are actually tough. They constantly struggle to find food, face pollution and toxic waste, deal with extreme weather, and compete with other animals. They risk predators, human conflict, and overcrowded colonies. In my area, people absolutely hate them and harm them, and it's encouraged to hurt them. There was a recent post in my community group about how someone kicked and stomped some fledglings to death, whilst the mother gull was desperately trying to stop it in panic, and so many people found it funny. I wouldn't want to be a seagull because humans love making their lives miserable. Reply 2. When my brother was 5 years old, we were at the beach, and he randomly said to me, "When I come back, I want to be a seagull." For the reasons you stated, it was profound because we were raised Roman Catholic. I have no clue, and he still can't explain how he could have known the concept of reincarnation. Reply 3. This actually is part of my family's lore. My grandpa and my dad loved fishing. If they had no work, they'd probably be hunting or fishing. Eventually, my grandpa was on his deathbed, and after my dad made a bad joke to lighten the mood, my grandpa said, "Dad, I'm going to come back as a seagull and crap on you." Around a decade later, I was out on a boat with my dad in the bay, and he gets shat on by a seagull. The family curse was fulfilled. Story 3. A golden retriever in an upper-middle-class suburban family. Reply 1. We had a golden retriever service dog for my son. He had the best life, was totally spoiled, and got to go everywhere with us because he was a SD. Everywhere we went, people would constantly tell him how beautiful he was. Reply 2. I'm a veterinarian, and my curse is knowing what disease is likely to take specific dog breeds. Many vets won't have a golden retriever because they are angelic dogs who like to get cancer. Hard to sign yourself up for tragedy. Reply 3. There's a golden in our neighborhood that walks by herself, leash in her mouth, almost prancing about like she's the happiest dog on planet Earth. She also sits at the top of the driveway with the garage open, no owner in sight, almost waving to cars with her eyes and not moving from her position. She's just the sweetest, best girl ever. Reply 4. Nothing like feeling constant anxiety for your whole life. Seriously though, I listened to a Buddhist monk tell a whole audience that being reincarnated as a dog is not a step forward you want to take. What humans see as unconditional love is actually just anxiety because they have no sense of past or future. When the humans leave you alone, you have no idea they're coming back. Reply 5. Almost every rescue dog I've ever known is eternally grateful for even simple comforts. I think enduring some hardship for the first 6 to 8 months would ensure that even as a dog you appreciate the life you find afterwards. As a bonus, being a mutt would preclude most of the weird health issues humans like to breed into dogs. I certainly wouldn't want to be a pug or French bulldog. Story 4. Orca or some big whale. Exploring the ocean would be dope AF. Reply 1. Blue whale. Ride around the ocean for 60-70 years, but I should also have the knowledge to avoid big boats. Small boats are okay. Reply 2. You'll spend your life being nipped at by sharks, enjoying the submarine sonar deafening you and interrupting your long-distance calls with your family, drinking in cruise ship spillage, and one day you'll dive to the deep depths and lack the strength to ascend, and you'll drown being pulled to the bottom of the sea. And if you survive long enough, the last thing you'll see will be the lights of anglerfish and the hordes of giant squid who live to taste your flesh. I'm not trying to be grim. Whales are magnificent creatures, but their existences are tragic. Reply 3. Yeah, dope if you're a blue whale. Not so much if you're a medium-sized fish. Nature documentaries have taught me it's way harder for them than us. I don't have to worry about getting eaten on the way to the chiropractor or grocery store. Circle of life and all, my husband and I actually got in a heated discussion over me letting my then 4-year-old watch them. He walked in as a lion was eating a zebra or something, and felt it was not age appropriate for her. I disagreed. Not noticing or shunning a topic only makes everyone a smidge more ignorant. If it's going to be uncomfortable anyway, I might as well approach it head on. Big things eat smaller in the wild. That's how it goes. As much as I wish life was like the Disney movie The Lion King, it's not. I'd rather have her see how life or death actually work than skirt around the topic. Story 5. One of the extinct species, like a dodo or a Tasmanian tiger, hide out most of the time, emerge only when there's a conspiracy theorist around, but duck out of sight as soon as they try to take a picture. Or better, when there's a skeptic around, make them question their skepticism but unable to prove what they saw, then move on before they have a chance to prove I was there. Basically, just mess with humans. Reply 1. Ha ha ha, yeah, or as another hominid species. I am so curious how smart Neanderthals and Homo erectus were compared to sapiens. Reply 2. Because they had bigger brains. It would certainly be an interesting comparison. A bunch of us should make a pact to try to come back as different hominid species. Wonder if we could get all the vaccines to stay alive long enough for testing, or if we'd have to be quarantined. I've started work on a sci-fi book at the moment, so scientific questions are at the forefront of my mind at the moment. Reply 3. Neanderthals were such hardcore humans and had comparable or slightly bigger brains than we do. This does not mean they were smarter, as folding density is crucial in determining intelligence. Women have significantly smaller brains, but their brain is folded more tightly, resulting in similar intelligence to men. But folding properties are not preserved, so we will never know the answer. Also significantly stronger than Eus puny sapiens. They could sustain a hit from megafauna and hunt with spears in melee combat, while we only hunted with ranged weapons, as a hit from those rhinos would be fatal for us. This was also their downfall. During the Ice Age, calories were scarce, but their muscles still required way more calories than we do. Our scrawny build gave a huge advantage over Neanderthals. Or erectus, this species existed for around 60,000 years, and is still the record holder for longest hominid relative to exist. They were located around China or Southeast Asia, and also probably around our intelligence level. Story 6. Anything that's not conscious. Reply 1. Super awesome fun fact, I went to see Everything Everywhere All at Once with a friend at the movies, and when the rock scene hit after the conscious being a pot that can break scene, I had a temporary psychosis about how we literally are everything. And there's so many different versions of it all happening, and the irony of people just chucking along in the theater to a mind-bogglingly profound movie where there's also freaking hot dog fingers. I turned to my friend and said we need to leave, and it took me a couple hours to come down. Story 7. A red panda in a well-funded, conservation-oriented zoo. Reply 1. I had a picture book, real pictures not drawings, of rare animals when I was a really little kid. I spent an inordinate number of hours looking at the red panda entry. Nothing looks quite so much like a magical creature in real life to me. Reply 2. You'd be okay with an endless stream of buttheads rattling your cage, banging on the plexiglass, throwing things over the edge to try and get you to wake up and move for photos? Screaming toddlers being held up with their parents look honey. Maybe you get attached to a specific zookeeper. One day they're just gonna forever, and you have no way of understanding that they moved away for another job. Maybe another red panda who you've bonded with disappears too. They're just gone. You don't understand they've been shipped to another zoo for breeding. I'm not saying this is all worse than life in the wild being eviscerated by predators and sapped by parasites or eventually starving, but it's not a life I'd choose. Story 8. I so would want to be a grizzly bear to hibernate all winter. I love sleeping, eating when I'm hungry, and I hate the cold. That's a win-win-win. Reply 1. I want to be one of the ones by a river filled with trout or salmon so I can munch on them all day, get super fat, and waddle around in the pretty water. Story 9. A bird so I can go where I want and whenever I want. Reply 1. When I was a kid, my friends and I asked the same question as OP. I said a duck, and they all laughed, saying they would be a bear or a lion. I said, well, I could swim or fly anywhere I would want to. Reply 2. I want to be one of those talking birds and will literally just talk to people. I'd be talking and talking to the point of making them question if I'm actually sapient. Ideally, I'd be taken care of by a loving owner who doesn't mind my yapping. I'd probably be talking about fandoms the most. Reply 3. When you get to the gates, you might want to be a little more specific about being a wild bird, or else you just might end up as someone's pet parrot, trapped in a cage for 30 years. You also might want to specifically say, not a songbird in areas where there are birds of prey, or else you'll just get eaten alive by a hawk. Story 10. That deep sea shark that lives 600 years. Reply 1. I just did some research on that species, and they reach reproductive maturity at about 150 years of age, and their pups are born alive after an estimated gestation period of 8 to 18 years. Yeah, good luck with that. Reply 2. I came upon the gestation period thing when researching them for a project recently, but upon digging further into some papers, it turned out to be something like 12-18 months. Still longer than I ever would want, though. Story 11. Capybara. Story 12. Okay, who's to say reincarnation is limited solely to Earth? Presumably it applies to all life anywhere in the universe. To that end, either some highly advanced and peaceful civilization on some corner of a little-known galaxy, or a spoiled and happy dog. Reply 1. Peaceful civilization. Very, very difficult to imagine. Limited resources always lead to conflict and competition. Reply 2. Consider an incredibly advanced civilization, billions of years older than ours, that has invented some sort of atomic assembler, capable of producing anything from scratch, and the tech has proliferated to the same extent as we have phones. It's just common for everybody to have one. There's no longer competition for resources. Reply 3. Yeah, people are kind of unoriginal with this one. OP never suggested it had to be an animal or even something known. Could be a mythical creature, a Greek god, a goblin, an Autobot, a demon or angel, I choose elf. Definitely elf. Story 13. Let me be reborn as a cat. I will finally get female attention. Reply 1. I initially thought cat, but the reality is the vast majority of them, and almost any animal, have horrible, painful lives. Reply 2. You have to be specific and say that you wanted to be adopted by someone like me. Single, childless, and crazy for kitties. I have a tiny little kitten who I plucked off the street 2 weeks ago, eating a snack on my bed right now. Story 14. A fox so I can be chaotic in possible peace. Reply 1. I worked at a golf course in my youth that had a number of foxes living in the woods around it. One of them would steal golf balls from the 8th fairway and hide them in the woods. Reply 2. Okay, but this is the best idea I've seen here, though. It is pretty odd I haven't seen anyone say a stoat or ferret or sable. But yeah, being a fox would be freaking awesome. Story 15. Sugar glider. Reply 1. Man, I just tried really hard to find stats on the percentage of wild or free sugar gliders versus captive or tamed ones, and it seems like the current consensus is, dunno. They're not endangered, there's a lot around, but who knows how many. Was gonna say there's a lot of bad sugar glider owners out there. Being crammed in a tiny cage and neglected would suck. But I think your odds are good to either get a good owner and have an awesome life, or be a wild glider and have a huge colony to cuddle up and run around with, and probably not get eaten right away. Story 16. Butterfly, nobody ever suspects the butterfly. Reply 1. Fun fact. Butterflies are reincarnated. After the caterpillar encases itself within its chrysalis, it doesn't like to hibernate. Get skinny and grow wings, instead it liquefies into a cellular soup and entirely reconstitutes into a different shaped organism with an entirely new set of organs, including a new brain. Story 17. I've answered this so many times and it still hasn't changed. Gull. Ring-billed gull or herring gull? I can fly, I can swim, I can choose to live wild and free catching fish, or I can hang out in a Wendy's parking lot eating French fries. Hell, I could do both. Want to swallow an entire duckling or squirrel? Can do that too. Lifespan is surprisingly long. You can mate for life if you want or not. Who cares? You can fly away. Gull life is life for me. Story 18. One of those Japanese monkeys that spend all their time in hot springs, adorably dusted with snow. Reply 1. Not to burst your bubble, but I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be. I forget which David Attenborough series it was, but they talk about those monkeys. They have a very mean girls social hierarchy. There's always a dick alpha monkey who will kick others out of the springs if they try to get in. So maybe wish to be the alpha male monkey or one of his bitches. Otherwise, you might be in for a really bad cold time. Story 19. Kryptonian. Reply 1. This is probably the very best answer possible. You'd still be able to live as a human, but also be a badass superhero if you wanted, and would likely live a pretty good second life. You'd have to worry about all the aliens and humans plotting to try to kill you ever so often, but you'd always survive. And if you didn't, you'd have some superhero friends with the right powers to resurrect you. Story 20. A turtle that knows ninjutsu. Reply 1. Oh, then, for no particular reason, I want to be reincarnated as the leader of an evil ninja clan. Our clan symbol could be something random, like a foot. I could go by the name Ripper or Tearer, something along those lines, but I feel like it should start with an S. Story 21. An eagle, having his amazing vision and soaring around, would be a great experience. Reply 1. I would rather be a hawk, osprey, or owl. Bald eagles are basically vultures with a white head. They rely on carrion more than they hunt. Story 22. A gray parrot. They're really smart and seem to have good lives. Reply 1. My mom owned 2 African grays at one point. One could tear your face off given the opportunity. The other was a nervous mess, constantly plucking at his feathers. I think grays are romanticized through online accounts, but they're a lot of work, and the fact that they can outlive multiple owners puts them at risk for behavioral problems. Reply 2. Grays are my favorite birds, but you're completely right about people romanticizing owning one. People love them for their intelligence and wit, but those same qualities can make them a nightmare to live with. They also have complex emotional needs, very similar to humans, and most people fail to meet these requirements, resulting in an aggressive or neurotic bird. They are amazing, and having a relationship with a gray parrot is so special, but it's not like having a pet, more like having a very independent toddler as a roommate. Reply 3. My mother has one. Inherited it from her partner's mother because she can't care for him anymore. He's a complex, deep, oftentimes sadistic little bastard, but he's getting better with actual stimulation and conversation. You're exactly right, they have the intelligence of a young human. Anecdotally, I think it's about 5 or 6 years old, though sometimes he's more like a moody teenager. Reply 4. Oh yeah, they are total brats when things don't go their way. Mine is a revenge pooper when she doesn't get something she wants. Happens the most with food and candy. Once the item is put away and there's no hope she'll get any, she craps on you and flies away. Sometimes she'll fly over just to crap and leave. I've gotten wise to her tricks, but eventually I forget and get crapped on. The joys of bird ownership. Reply 5. Jasper, my mother's bird, is territorial as hell. When I was living at home, if he was out of his cage while I was in the living room, he'd stand on the arm of the sofa, puff up, and stride towards me until I moved down. Then he'd do the same again and again until he had the sofa to himself. Funny little guy. I'm not a bird person at all, but he's sweet in his own feathered demon way. Story 23. Panda. Get to be highly respected and literally have billions of people cheering for you to just get laid. Reply 1. I saw a panda in a Chinese zoo. It was sprawled out just like a drunk on a bender, snoring on a concrete floor, poop streaks across the white part of his fur. Maybe not having to struggle to get food had made me bored and depressed, I don't know. But if it's possible to be traumatized from watching an animal sleep, then I was traumatized. Reply 2. Pandas are not struggling to get food. If anything, the extinction they face is due to too much consumption of bamboo. Not saying the panda wasn't mistreated in some way. Size of the enclosure, treatment from handlers, just general captivity can all play a part. But he wasn't depressed about having all his food handed to him. Story 24. Normally when choosing what animal I'd be, I would pick a lobster or an alligator for never aging to death. But if reincarnation were real, I suppose I'd have no qualms in picking a pigeon. I could fly, eat what I want, and annoy the hell out of humans. Reply 1. Well, lobsters and alligators, if they aren't hunted or run afoul of larger predators, generally continue growing until they can't consume enough food to sustain themselves. Alligators merely starve to death. Lobsters can't generate a new shell after their last molt and get picked apart by opportunistic scavengers. Reply 2. Yeah, so many different ways to die as a pigeon. Foxes hate you, cats hate you, glass tricks you to death, electric cables around railways electrocute you, or at least deform your feet. People have a love-hate with you. They like you flying, but dare to rest and they put spikes everywhere so you can't. Crap life being a pigeon. Story 25. Definitely a house cat. If I am not treated right, I'll just run to someone else's house until they let me in and live a good life. Reply 1. That's how my mom acquired 90% of our house cats. They just moved in from the neighbors. One neighbor locked their cat up for over a month, and as soon as they let her out, she came right back to us. They walked over and handed us her papers. So I'll be seeing you. Soon? Brown house at the bottom of the hill. Let yourself in through the cat door. Story 26. I always loved cheetahs. I was really quick in sports, and they called me Cheetah. Then I found out they give cheetahs pet golden retrievers in zoos to keep them calm, and I'm definitely coming back as a cheetah, because I get to be super fast and hang with my golden retriever, who keeps my anxiety down all day. Story 27. An expensive racehorse. They get treated like royalty, and on top of that, when they are done with racing, they pretty much retire and still get treated very well. Reply 1. You will also be pushed to your absolute limit, sometimes with drugs until you break. You will be ridden before your body is fully developed and strong enough to handle the weight of a human on your back. You will also most likely suffer an untimely death from a massive injury like a broken leg, back, or neck, heart attack, exhaustion, etc. If you survive the start of your racing career, but aren't fast enough, you might also be put down when you're still young, because you have no more commercial value. If you still make it through your entire racing career, when you're about 8-10 years old, without a major injury, congrats. You'll most likely start a new career in a different type of competition. Or you might be sent to slaughter. Depends.
Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you want to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.